Nor is the soul connected with any place for the same reason. This is a continuation of the previous verse. Just as the soul does not fuse with the factor of time, it also does not fuse with the factor of space. It is not limited by it. Space and time are factors for the existence of everything but the soul, which does not need these factors to exist. The process of the soul and the process of the material level do come together to realize the individual processes of individual existences, but they are separate. This is why we sometimes do not have the sense that the soul exists. In our modern times, we have forgotten who it was that switched on the lights of each individual existence, and who it is that will switch them off. In our modern times, we believe that these lights just turn themselves on and off, but that is not the case. Sometimes we confuse an individual existence with the level of the soul. If we use antibiotics or chloroform, these have their own gunas, their own qualities, and when they are switched on to exist, they manifest their inherent qualities. But first some action must be taken to switch them on. We must ingest the antibiotics. We must inhale the chloroform, and then their qualities will manifest themselves. Medicine sitting in a box treats nobody. Food sitting on the shelf in a store does not end hunger by sitting there. The action of eating has to happen. The body has its own duty, Dharma, but the soul is not bounded by any life circumstance. The sutra includes the word Deha Dharma. Deha means the body, and Dharma means the requirements of space and time, the two major factors for all beings. Time in Sanskrit is kal, and space is desh, although this tends to be translated as country, a concept that did not exist in Vedic literature. It means place. All that exists is limited by space and time, by their specific qualities. Action is realized in space and time by the body, which has its own tools, visible ones like the motor and sense organs, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and invisible ones like our intelligence and memory. Space and time give the body a reason to perform various actions. Dharma is the master of the action of the body. Unfortunately, in modern times, there has been great competition between religions, and the term Dharma has been misinterpreted to mean religion. This word cannot be translated from Sanskrit. It must remain Dharma, and it means the requirements of the space and time. This is how existence is meant to work. Once we say that action is undertaken, then this is about the body in space and time. And that means the Atma, soul, is not involved. The influence of Christianity has emphasized the existence of the spiritual as something superlative for people to be involved in. But in ancient times, the realm of the soul or spirit was understood to be beyond the realm of the manifest. There is no such thing as a spiritual person or a person engaged in spiritual work in the Vedic understanding. According to Ayurveda, each and every substance has its own qualities, and the action of these substances is limited to their qualities, called gunas. For example, water has its own qualities. It is liquid, cold, and flows, etc. If water loses any of these qualities, then it is no longer water. If it loses fluidity, it is not water. Likewise, space and time have their own gunas, as do all substances and beings. Nothing happens in this universe except the manifestation of all these qualities. The sun shines, the earth turns, water flows, plants grow, medicine is used, people talk and walk around, etc. This concept of dravya guna guides Ayurvedic pharmacy. We know of the influence of the qualities of various substances on the body, its metabolism, etc., and this philosophy has its roots in the ancient treatises. The Purusha, the soul, is unattached. This sutra is just the conclusion to the previous discussion about the properties and relationships between soul and matter. Purusha, the soul, cannot be fused with matter, because each and every material entity has its own gunas, qualities, which limit that entity. The soul is limitless. The qualities of matter need to be given permission to manifest, and giving that permission, making that possible, is what the soul or spirit does. Remember the example of turning on a light. It is soul that turns on the inherent qualities of any entity while remaining detached from what is set in motion. Any action, karma, that forms a union is not undertaken by the soul, because such action involves accordance with Dharma. Any action is a process. In each and every action there must be a doer responsible for that action. In each and every process there are certain qualities inherent to the ingredients involved. If the action is to cut down a tree, then somebody must have the qualities needed to cut the wood. If one is a forester, one has what one needs to cut down the tree. A typist cannot do this. The forester will have an iron axe, which is heavy and sharp, which are the qualities needed. One could not cut down a tree just by blowing on it, for example. Those are not the qualities needed. The action of cutting down the tree involves a union between the qualities of the axe, the qualities of the forester, and the qualities of the tree. The entire universe is nothing but such combinations of qualities. SAMKHYA makes it very clear that there is a difference between the realm of the material and the realm of the soul. One is limited by space and time, and one is not. There is no concept of God mentioned here, but modern religions use this term to refer to the Almighty. That power is constantly being manifested by all that exists. For philosophers, such a modern concept of God is not acceptable because it is too limited and does not make sense. Any process is a function of the inherent qualities of the ingredients involved. Modern religions think in terms of I, you, and he, but the Vedic concept involves only one doer, Purusha, Atma, and the power of any action is inherent not in the doer, but in the inherent qualities of each ingredient of any process, Prakriti. Dharma is always the property of another time and space, or a process or life, so the different types of experience, consequences of action, cannot be experienced by Atma. This verse requires an understanding of the word Dharma. It means a natural property, a requirement of time and space. Any living entity has to follow the rules and regulations of time and space. In that case, every living entity on this earth has predefined properties of their nature, properties of time and properties of space, when and where, and acts accordingly. Each entity just does what they are limited to do by Dharma. This means the duties correspond to the environment. For example, if one gets on a bus, it will take one from A to B. When one goes to work, there is a script one is supposed to follow, like an actor in a film. The sense that I am experiencing what is going on is actually only due to our sensory input and our memory, but this is an illusion. Without sensory input or memory, we would not have this feeling. These mental states are very superficial. We are unaware of the process of time and space around us, how it is handled and organized, that each and every entity has many processes going on simultaneously. The only thing we know is what we can perceive with our senses and compare with what we remember, but we are unaware, for example, of all of our own physiological processes that keep us alive. People are unable to talk about their own lungs, their own kidneys, etc. We do not experience them. What organizes all of these processes is what we are discussing here, the Atma, that which is responsible for the existence of all. The Atma knows everything, but is not related to Dharma as it is used in the Vedic texts. It can be understood as the chemical physical properties of the universe in various times and spaces. It does not make sense to think the Atma, the soul, is limited by Prakriti, nature, since Prakriti, nature, is what is limited, dependent on gunas. Here there is a great emphasis placed by Kapila on understanding matter as a very automatic, unchangeable entity with its own qualities that is limited by its own nature. For example, if one brings a grizzly bear home from Yellowstone Park, the bear will not live calmly watching television. It is limited by its own qualities. Nothing is liberated from the qualities that make it what it is. Blood, plasma, bones, muscle have their own qualities and are limited by them. The qualities cannot be changed. They are limited by time and space. Life runs as a function of time and space, and the qualities persist until the life is over. When the life ends, then the qualities of the materials left over can change. The body of any entity is just a game of combined materials and their properties. We create a lot of emotions around the persistence of lives, but creating such emotions is actually ignorance of how the world works. All beings live in ignorance. If one starts to look into the physiology of the body, then automatically the mind understands that the body is just a function of various dharmas that cannot be changed. This sutra wants to tell the reader not to believe that Prakriti can do anything it wants. For example, dinosaurs are no more, and human beings did not exist at the time that dinosaurs did. The reason is that the existence of everything is just a function of the Dharma. When the conditions call for dinosaurs, then they exist. Consider a glass of water, for example. There can be water in a glass, but it is not limited by the glass forever. The water can be poured out of the glass, and when it is in the glass, it remains water. It does not fuse with the glass. Similarly, when a man becomes a husband, or a woman a wife. This is just a role, a glass these people have been placed in. They themselves remain unchanged. The Atma, soul, is constant, pure, without contamination, aware, intelligent, and free. It cannot be united with Prakriti, which is limited by the gunas. Contamination is an outcome of fusion. The Atma is the source of all knowledge, and it is unlimited. There is only one Atma. It is hard to understand this verse because in our modern times, we always feel our individual identity and we look for it. Who am I? What group do I belong to? What belongs to me? Our only reference is ourselves. Personal identity does not exist in philosophy, though. This is a discussion of universal identity, and that is the level we must understand when reading this verse. If one wants to make a fish farm, for example, one looks for a pond, stocks it with fish and feeds them, the fish reproduce, etc. Each individual fish may feel its identity, but in fact they are all the concept of the fish farmer. They are all just fish to him. He does not care which one he eats first, but the fish may have the feeling that they are unique lives. This is the same way we behave on earth. We do not know what the farmer who put us here is planning to do with us. The Atma is the farmer of all times and all places. Another example is a lawn. Each blade of grass may feel its own identity, but each is part of what makes the lawn. According to Vedic philosophy, it is ignorant for any being to consider itself to be self-existing. Some people today cannot accept anything but their own individual identity, which is in fact meaningless. If we eliminate identity, then automatically all that is left is the Atma, because Atma is the only thing that exists eternally. Due to our ignorance, we always are looking for our own definition as an individual. When people say God is great, they mean that what is important is that God is taking care of us, even though we are not eternal. When we discuss Atma, we must take a global, universal view. From that perspective, we see that there is only one Atma, and that the material world involves countless limitations. That is the perspective of Samkhya philosophy.